Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Noonan, and I've been a principal in Max Schools for 18 years, and now I'm the Senior Program Lead for enrolments at Max, and I'll be your MC for this evening. I'd like to welcome you all here this evening as we celebrate a significant milestone for our Catholic system, the launch of Max Flourishing Learners Position Statement, Vision for Instruction. Before we do our formal welcomes, can you please join with me in thanking the St Joseph's Ferntree Gully Jazz Band for entertaining us tonight. We look forward to hearing more from them after our speeches. It is my great pleasure to welcome, firstly, the Archbishop's Episcopal Vicar for Catholic Schools, Father Mark Reynolds, Max Board Chair, Gerard Del Bosco, and members of the board, Max Executive Director, Dr. Edward Simons, members of the Max Executive and Senior Leadership Team, and members of the Max Education Strategy and Policy Board Committee. Thank you all for being with us this evening. I'm also pleased to inform you that later this evening, we will have the Deputy Premier and Minister for Education and Minister for Medical Research, the Honourable Ben Carroll, and the Shadow Minister for Early Childhood and Education, Finance and Economic Reform and Regulation, the Honourable Jess Wilson, will also be joining us shortly. Tonight we also welcome Amanda Spielman, who up until the end of 2023 was His Majesty's Chief Inspector at Ofsted in the United Kingdom, and Marcia Devlin, the CEO of the Victorian Academy of Teaching and Leadership. And a very warm welcome to all our principals, school leaders, teachers, guests and partners joining us in the room and online tonight. We welcome all of our guests who have been part of the journey joining us tonight. So welcome everyone. Before we formally begin, a few housekeeping notes. Kindly keep your phones on silent, and if you need to take a call, please do so outside the room tonight. The restrooms, as you may have already seen, are out in the foyer area. And following formal proceedings, we'll have drinks and canapes will be served from 6 till 6:30 tonight. We have an exciting agenda. Here is an overview of the planned proceedings this evening, which includes a panel discussion with representatives from our schools. I would now like to lead us in an acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge that Max offices and Catholic schools in the Archdiocese of Melbourne are situated on the lands of the 5 language groups that make up the Kulin Nation, who have walked upon and care for this land for thousands of years. We acknowledge their continued deep spiritual connection and relationship to country. We pay respects to their elders, past, present and future, and commit to the ongoing journey of reconciliation. It is my pleasure now to invite Dr. Nigel Zimmerman, the Director of Catholic Mission and Identity Team, to lead us in our opening prayer.
It is a great privilege and a pleasure to be here this evening to lead us all in prayer and to use a prayer that has been created especially by our Catholic Mission and Identity Team for today's launch. It's an opportunity for us to invite our loving God into this work in which we are sharing. The God who loves us, who wants to give us life, and for us to flourish. You are most welcome to join me in prayer out loud or silently follow along with the words. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving God, we give thanks for the gift of education and the opportunity to learn and grow in the light of your wisdom. May all Catholic schools in the Archdiocese of Melbourne recognise that students are created in your image, each uniquely fashioned by your divine hands. Grant our families, school leaders, parishes and students the strength to face challenges with courage, the perseverance to overcome obstacles, and the humility to recognise that true wisdom comes from you. May our minds be open to truth, our hearts full of mercy, and our actions reflective of the love taught by Jesus Christ. Lord, as our schools embark on this academic journey, let students flourish not only as learners, but as whole and compassionate individuals. May the seeds of knowledge planted in their hearts bear fruits of virtue, wisdom, and understanding. We offer this prayer through Christ our Lord, who is the way, the truth, and the life. Amen. Our Lady, seat of wisdom, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. I would now like to welcome to the stage Father Mark Reynolds, our Episcopal Vicar for Catholic Schools here in Melbourne, who is here on Archbishop Peter Comensoli's behalf to offer his blessing for this launch. Thank you, Father Mark.
Thank you, Nigel. And good evening to everybody. And I would like to convey blessings and greetings from Archbishop Peter, who unfortunately is not able to be with us this evening. For us who are part of the Catholic tradition, education is always seen as a sacred space, one of collective dedication, and our Max 2030 purpose is designed to ensure that we are forming lives of faith, hope, and love in the light of Jesus Christ. The dignity of the human person is central to who we are as a people of faith. And so we want our Catholic schools to be places of purpose where every student is inspired and enabled to flourish and enrich the world. This vision for instruction, which we're launching, outlines our commitment to equity, excellence, and best practice in teaching and instruction, with clear goals and a plan to reach those goals. As Archbishop Peter notes in the foreword for the vision of instruction, quoting Pope Francis, where the Pope says, "Teachers are artisans who shape the coming generations. By their knowledge, patience, and dedication, they communicate a way of living and acting that embodies a richness that is not material but spiritual." It is our Catholic teachers and leaders who are entrusted with this work, and you have our prayers and blessings going forth as you partner with students, parents, and your school faith communities to create lives of purpose. So let us draw strength from our shared faith and commitment to excellence. Thank you, and go well as you continue to serve the Lord with joy.
Thank you, Nigel and Father Mark. It is now my great pleasure to invite our Executive Director, Dr. Edward Simons, to the stage for his welcome address.
Thank you, Tim, very much, and good evening. I'm delighted that we are able to gather together today to launch and to formally commence the work of our Max Vision for Instruction. I'd like to echo Tim's warm welcome also, including to Max School and office colleagues, both here in the room and joining us through the online streaming, together with special guests, including Father Mark, the Max board members, including our chair, Gerard Del Bosco, and Margaret O'Donnell, OAM, chair of our Education Strategy and Policy Committee, government representatives, education system administrators, academics, researchers, Catholic school parents, and education advocates, both from here across our archdiocese, but also, as we have heard, from the national and international scene. I would like to begin by thanking and paying tribute to our Max School and Max Office colleagues who have worked so hard to reach this moment, this launch. As the document in front of you sets out, this vision is the culmination of hard work, deep research, creative thinking, and rich collaboration within Max and well beyond. And my sincere thanks go to everyone who has been involved in forging our vision for instruction, because your efforts and your expertise will impact countless students, both this year and into the years ahead. When we launched Max 2030, our system-wide strategic intent, just a little over a year ago, I spoke about the need for our whole organisation to reflect on the biggest challenges that confronted us and to work at speed to find practical, ambitious and student-centred solutions. And the 4 strategic pillars of Max 2030 serve to focus our work on how we achieve this intent. And those pillars are inspired by faith, flourishing learners, enabled leaders, and enriched communities. Today marks the culmination of work by school and office colleagues, as well as the collaborators from both near and far, to release our Flourishing Learners position statement, and in doing so to set out our clear intent for teaching and learning across Max parish school communities. I am confident that our vision for instruction is the step change that we require to support our 10,000 classroom teachers to be the very best that they can be. And specifically, we will focus this work around the learning areas of reading, writing, and mathematics, where our results demonstrate that we must find ways to do better and to support every student with equitable access to excellent learning opportunities. I also recognise that the statement being shared with you today will come as very little surprise to a significant number of principals and teachers across our system, many who have shared insights into the vision and who have for some time, or perhaps more recently, been ensuring evidence-based practice is embedded throughout their own classrooms. Because it is now clear, and it has been for some time, from the groundswell of evidence from national and international education experts, that students will be given the best opportunity to flourish through a knowledge-rich curriculum that is underpinned by evidence-based teaching practices. And with a Catholic intellectual tradition dating back so many centuries, it should come as no surprise that Catholic education is already naturally positioned to use the pillars of our faith and learning tradition as the building blocks to our vision. And to this end, the content within the vision for instruction is both strikingly contemporary within the current education policy landscape, but also steeped in age-old wisdom and discernment from our Catholic tradition. The Vision for Instruction statement, as a centrepiece to our Max 2030 strategy, will drive our teaching and learning agenda forwards towards our ultimate vision, which Father Mark has reminded us, where every student is inspired and enabled to flourish and enrich the world. I wish to close by thanking you for your support and for your encouragement for this crucial work, and for the partnerships that I've already seen have formed around the vision statement. And I also wish to recognise our working partnerships with the state government, including with Ben Carroll, Deputy Premier and Minister for Education, who we know is a proud product of Catholic education, and Jess Wilson, Shadow Minister for Education, including for her public support for evidence-based instruction. I know that the Deputy Premier will be joining us on stage a little later, but before that, I would like to warmly welcome our Max Director of Learning and Regional Services, Dr. Mary Oski, to share more detailed information about Flourishing Learners, Vision for Instruction, alongside Shauna Marie Sykes, who leads our Flourishing Learners programme of work. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. It is such a privilege to be here with you all at the launch of our Vision for Instruction. As Ed has mentioned, this vision embodies many months of dedication and collaboration with our schools. We extend our deepest gratitude to the school leaders who have graciously contributed their time to support this initiative and those who have joined us this evening. In my role as Director of Learning and Regional Services, I'm very aware of how hard our teachers work every day, and that teachers in our Catholic schools are committed to improving outcomes for every student in their care. We know that teachers go into teaching because they want to make a difference. The missing piece for many has been system clarity about what works best for students in the classroom, amongst a myriad of teaching styles and approaches that teachers have employed over past years. I'm therefore very excited to be in a position tonight where we now have clear and explicit directions to provide for our teachers. I've been fortunate to have worked in collaboration with a highly accomplished team, which Shauna has the privilege of leading, and many other national and international experts to arrive at this place where we are today. The Vision for Instruction is firmly based on rigorous research evidence on how students learn, and hence the practical implications to achieve the most effective and quality teaching in our Catholic schools. Further, I'm very blessed to lead a team that values such a close relationship with our schools and recognises that great outcomes are only possible when working in authentic partnerships with school leaders and teachers. This collaboration fosters a culture of trust, openness, and provides valuable feedback to the Max office from our school communities. We know that the values of equity and excellence sit well with our system leaders. Moreover, we have listened attentively to our school leaders who have highlighted the importance of a cohesive, system-wide approach to fostering teaching excellence. The vision has been developed to enable all Max teachers to enhance their teaching practice for all students. The Vision for Instruction is divided into 3 sections: the why, the what, and the how. The why clearly outlines our intent. The what details our vision for instruction with practical guidance on instructional best practice. And the how, very importantly, is where our system implementation support is outlined. Shortly, you will hear from 4 school leaders who have been working closely with us on the development of the vision through our Flourishing Learners Principal Teacher Reference Group. I'll hand over now to Shauna to introduce herself and the school leaders who will be joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, and good evening, everyone. It brings me joy to stand here before you all this evening. As the General Manager of Improved Learning Outcomes at Max, I'm delighted to see so many familiar faces in this room. So many faces of school leaders, educational experts, and industry partners who have worked closely with us on this journey to date. To implement Flourishing Learners effectively across a large system of schools, Max has partnered with several industries, experts, individuals, groups and organisations to ensure that we have the best curriculum and teaching resources, as well as evidence-based professional learning to support our teachers to bring to life the vision for instruction in classrooms. The development of this vision would not have been possible without many here tonight, and it would be remiss of us not to mention some of our partners and really thank them for this critical early work. Our sincere thanks goes to the Oka Education team, Caroline Reid and Reid Smith, Ingrid Seeley of Teachwell, Dr Simon Breakspear, Dr Jennifer Buckingham, Dr Ben Jensen, Katie Roberts-Hull of Think Forward Educators, the National Catholic Education Commission, Notre Dame University, Professor Dylan Willem, and most importantly, our Flourishing Learners Program Working Group. And there's also those acknowledged in our document itself. Equally, one of the most important groups to support the development of the Vision for Instruction has been Max's own Flourishing Learners Principal and Teacher Reference Group. This reference group, like our workforce of teachers, consists of passionate educators who care deeply about their school communities and, most importantly, the learning outcomes of their students. These leaders have guided us with their advice on best practice approaches for enhancing teaching and learning and provided extensive feedback on each of our initiatives to date. They're joining us here this evening to share their thoughts and perspectives on the Vision for Instruction. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome some of our members of the Flourishing Learners Principal and Teacher Reference Group to the stage. So thank you to Julie Freeman, Chloe Painter, Adam Gonzalez and Sarah Gale. Welcome to the stage, everybody. I hope our nerves are okay. It's quite hard to see up here. It is. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. And Julie, I have a first question for you. And thanks, Chloe. So can you tell us what aspects of Flourishing Learners' position statement, Vision for Instruction, excite you the most?
Absolutely, I can do that. Now, you might find this hard to believe, but next year marks 50 years since I first stepped foot into a Catholic primary school. A little tiny prep student at Resurrection in Essendon, embarking on what would turn out to be just the beginning of my love of education in a Catholic setting. Every year since then, I have stepped foot into a Catholic school somewhere in Melbourne as a student, a pre-service teacher, a leader, a principal and a parent. Fast forward to 2023 when I joined the reference group to the Flourishing Learners position paper. I remember sitting in that meeting with principals, deputy principals, curriculum leaders and Max leadership and thinking and then saying out loud that this was the first time I'd been so excited in a Catholic education meeting. Why am I so excited, you might ask? First of all, the work that has gone into this document behind the scenes, even before the reference group took their first glimpse of the document, has been outstanding. The collaboration with experts such as Barack Rosenshine, Daniel Willingham and Dylan William has spoken to me in a way like nothing else. These are world-famous researchers we've been able to tap into, and more importantly, they have been excited to work with us as well. Working with these experts indicates a commitment to incorporating cutting-edge, contemporary educational research and practices in the work that we do in Catholic schools in Melbourne. This collaboration can bring fresh perspectives and innovative strategies to enhance teaching and learning experience for all of the students in all MAC schools. Melbourne Archdiocese Catholic Schools is responsible for the education of 112,000 students in 300 schools. That's a lot. As we aim to become the benchmark for excellence in teaching and learning in a Catholic context, we look to the schools of choice who will provide an outstanding education focused on, I'm not quite ready, it's okay, on formation of the whole person that has the intellectual, practical and moral excellence of learners at its heart. Who wouldn't want to work in our schools and entrust their children to our schools? Incorporating the Catholic tradition into the Vision for Instruction reflects a commitment to holistic education that integrates spiritual and moral development with academic growth, contributing to the formation of well-rounded individuals in our schools. The virtues of hope, faith and love are embedded in the work we do, and I draw on Archbishop Comensoli's words in the forward of this document where he says, Jesus Christ is our first and greatest teacher. His mercy, his self-giving, his witness to truth are what motivate us all in the work of Catholic education. And I wish to emphasise the importance of integrating Jesus' teaching, values and example into every aspect of our school's culture, curriculum and community. Through Jesus' teachings about mercy, self-giving and witness to truth, this provides a unique and powerful motivation for our work in Catholic education. Emphasising cognitive science in instructional strategies indicates a commitment to evidence-based practices. Understanding how students learn at a cognitive level can lead to more effective teaching methods tailored to individual needs. I've been fortunate enough to work in 2 schools with an evidence-based learning approach, and I've seen the impact it's had on our students. To think that this would be a system-wide approach is something that gives me great confidence in our Max schools, enabling our students to flourish and make a difference in our world. A focus on evidence-based practices ensures that instructional methods are grounded in research and have proven effectiveness, therefore much more likely to lead to the better outcomes for our students. The student-centred approach is exciting as it places the students at the heart of the educational purpose and process, tailoring instruction to their needs, interests and learning styles. This approach fosters engagement and promotes a deeper understanding of the content matter. Question I often ask my own staff is, what is it that excites our students when they wake up in the morning, and what gets them to school every day? And also, what is it that sends them home each day wanting to find more or to share their learning experiences with their families? If this is something we can achieve, I feel we have really made a difference in the lives of these children. The Max Flourishing Learners position statement has a common purpose and vision, which provides us with a shared understanding and direction for all stakeholders within our Max community. This alignment fosters a cohesive and supportive environment, directing collective efforts towards shared goals, and we all know the importance of collective efficacy and the impact it has on our students and the power it gives our teachers. Adopting a system-wide approach indicates a commitment to consistency and coherence across the entire Max system. This can lead to better coordination of resource allocation and overall effectiveness in achieving educational objectives. I was very fortunate this week to attend the Teaching Impact in Mathematics professional learning that was provided for our junior classroom teachers and leaders and hosted by Teachwell and Max Mathematics staff. And great to see Ingrid here this evening as well. We've spent 2 days together this week. This provided a great insight into how we might move forward in working as a system-wide approach, sharing consistency and coherence across our schools. I was heartened by the number of participants. There were 200 people in this very room on Tuesday and 120 in the room across the foyer there today. And I feel this shows I'm not the only one who's excited about what's to come. Prioritising teaching excellence signals a commitment to continuous professional development and growth. This focus on excellence can elevate the overall quality of education provided by our schools. The support that is promised will help us all to be able to achieve this goal. A focus on knowledge-rich learning suggests a commitment to providing students with a strong foundation of essential content and skills. This would be regardless of their socio-economic background, whether English is their first, second or third language, students with a refugee background, students in any of our archdioceses from Sunbury to Geelong, to Cranbourne to Kew, or from Collingwood to Strathmore. This approach can contribute to a deep and comprehensive understanding of content combined with a love of learning, preparing students for their faith development, future academic success, and a strong sense of well-being. The inclusion of multi-tiered systems of support reflects a commitment by Max to addressing the diverse needs of students. By providing these multiple tiers, our system can better cater for all learning styles and abilities, ensuring that each student receives necessary assistance and guidance to achieve growth and success. A well-defined vision for reading and writing instructions suggests a thoughtful approach to literacy development. This could include strategies for fostering a love of reading, building strong writing skills, and ensuring that students are proficient in their fundamental communication skills. Our goal to ensure every student, regardless of background, achieves literacy and numeracy proficiency will put us at the top of the list in all schools in the world, I think. A clear vision for mathematics instruction is important for developing strong numeracy skills, strategies such as making maths engaging, emphasising problem-solving skills, and ensuring students have a solid foundation in mathematical concepts through focused teaching and teaching to a point of need. In closing, I'm looking forward to what comes next and how, as a principal, I can engage the staff and students in my own school and deliver a knowledge-rich, evidence-based learning and teaching program. But also to know that this will also be happening in other schools across our wonderful system, and it won't matter which school a child attends. They will be at the centre of everything that we do, and support will be in place to help make this happen.
Thanks, Julie. I think it's fair to say she's excited about quite a lot. So thank you so much, Julie. But I think most importantly, what you mentioned is that the impact of this vision for instruction is on its ability to ensure that every student in every classroom, regardless of which school they go to, has equitable access to learning outcomes.
Yes, I'm very passionate about that. I've worked across the Northern region all of my teaching career, and the Northern region is quite diverse in itself, let alone the other 3 regions. So just knowing whichever school it is, that the students will have great teaching practices and great leaders and just be fantastic.
Thank you so much. Mary, over to you.
Thank you, Julie. And Chloe, we'd like to ask you, how do you see this vision statement actually making a difference to teachers and students?
Okay, so the short answer, the possibilities are just about limitless. The long answer could keep us here well past midnight, so I've done my best to try and find the middle ground somewhere. The impact of this endeavour, it could stand to extend far beyond academic and economic benefits. It stands to resonate in improved health, greater life satisfaction, and a heightened sense of pro-social behaviour in our community, which I think is much needed at the moment. To date, the most powerful and sustainable lever we have to pull in order to achieve this is improving teacher quality. Efforts to enhance teacher quality are perpetually being pursued both in Australia and globally. We would have all heard the initiatives like attracting the brightest minds to the profession, firing all the bad teachers, or paying all of the best teachers more, reducing class sizes, and these are just to name a few. Unfortunately, and Ed touched on it earlier, we don't have that time to wait. Any principal here would be able to tell you how difficult it is to be able to employ enough teachers, let alone the best and brightest to their schools. So Dylan William, again, hope you're playing a game in your seats, has emphasised time and time again that the only way to improve student achievement at scale is to invest in the teachers we already have. He calls it the love the one you're with strategy. Thankfully, the mechanisms or the active ingredients responsible for the desired effects of professional development have had a real moment in the research spotlight in recent years. 14 mechanisms have been identified and categorised into 4 goals of professional development. For teachers to gain insight and knowledge, for teachers to be motivated, for teachers to be able to embed practice, and for teachers to be able to develop powerful teaching techniques. The giant caveat here is that professional development not only needs to have a balanced mix of mechanisms from these 4 categories to be successful, it needs to be based on quality content if we are to realise our goals. The Max position statement, it effectively signposts this quality content for schools. It is constructed on a rock-solid foundation of what is currently known about how we learn and the most effective and efficient pedagogical approaches to get there. Bold goal number 1, all about excellence. It means that all teachers can be empowered to deliver an evidence-based program using evidence-based teaching techniques and practices, thus reinstating the teacher as the teacher, a teacher who has permission to take up the mantle of the expert in the room. I've lost track of the number of times over my career that I've been told that I needed to be the guide on the side and I was not allowed to be the sage on the stage, and that if I directly taught my students anything, I would be diminishing their chances of retaining it long term. Edu-myth. Bold goal number 2, equity for our students. Regardless of background, all students achieve literacy and numeracy proficiency, and for good reason. The occupational landscape is set for some dramatic changes in the near future, with the introduction of AI, machine learning, many things that I don't know much about yet. Whilst it's true that we are preparing students for jobs that most likely don't yet exist, it is untrue that the way to prepare them is by dismissing knowledge as though it is not a prerequisite to be able to solve problems and think critically. The main purpose of curriculum is to build up the content of long-term memory so that when students are asked to think, they are able to think in more powerful ways because what is in their long-term memory makes their short-term memories more powerful. You guessed it, Dylan William. And another one, knowledge is what you think with. That's Greg Ashman, just for a little bit of variety. If skilled jobs become automated processes run by machines, it doesn't mean that there will be no jobs left. It means that the type of jobs available will be so different. They will require a high level of literacy and numeracy proficiency and a wealth of powerful knowledge stored in long-term memory. The vision for instruction is a clear signpost for where schools need to spend their finite commodities of attention, time, and resources. This position statement could potentially cut out years of effort, knowledge building, and fact-finding missions, hopefully speeding up the progress of many schools in order to change. The position statement sets the scene to destigmatise the use of pre-prepared curriculum and materials. High-quality ones, of course. Hello, Reid from Oka. Thank you for being here. That's where I think Max get a little bit of a shout out for making a really bold step in order to destigmatise the use of really high quality resources so that teachers can focus on how they are going to deliver those in powerful ways. In fairness to teachers, we can do just about anything, and on any given day we are asked to do so, but we can't do everything. Is the preference that teachers spend their precious planning time sourcing, constructing and writing well-sequenced curriculum? Or is it that they spend that time adapting high-quality curriculum and honing their craft to teach their students in a more thoughtful and responsive way? I know what my preference is. All of this is really just scratching the surface. I haven't talked about motivation, teacher retention, hopefully enrolment numbers going up. There is so many more things that could be said, but I'm not keeping you here until midnight. All of this is possible if we pay attention to the mechanisms responsible for effective PD. We develop sustainable ways for school leaders and teachers to gain access to expertise. We collaborate to work smarter, not harder. We celebrate the small wins and progress along the way and foster a culture of continuous improvement. Now, it seems only appropriate that I close with another Dylan William perler. If we create a culture where every teacher believes they need to improve, not because they are not good enough, but because they can be even better, there is no limit. The Max vision for instruction is an epic step in the right direction for the most important people in our system, our teachers and our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Chloe. And it's wonderful to hear it from a teacher's perspective. And like you, I have enormous value for the teachers in our schools. And we had graduate teachers in on Tuesday for a commissioning mass and a follow-up program with them. And one of the things that we often hear from graduate teachers is, just tell me what you want me to do, because they often get very conflicting advice and then they're stuck in the middle thinking which way is the right way to go. And I think this vision for instruction actually picks up exactly what you're saying. It really provides some directions, and the resources that we're providing along with it gives them the opportunity to use their real expertise to cater to the students that are in their classroom. So thank you so much. And now we're going to hear from Adam.
Got your mic. Okay, thanks. Adam, when you looked at the vision, can you identify any points of alignment between the vision for instruction and current practices in your school, please?
Thanks, Shauna. Great question. Just off the top of my head. So Taking part in the reference group last year, it came at a really interesting time for us as a school, but for me personally too. We were coming off the back of a school review, which I'm sure we all really enjoy, and it really set us onto a pathway to develop our own learning and teaching framework. And we were getting ready to do that on our own, and there are challenges associated with that. Given that we only have the resourcing as one small school to do that on our own. So we knew that work would have been quite tough ahead of us. But before coming along to the reference group with these wonderful people, as a school, we had started to immerse ourselves in some of the same research and the work of the wonderful people that we've heard before to try and broaden our knowledge. We were into the science of learning. We tapped into some of the work of La Trobe University Solar Lab for the secondary literacy program, Rosenshine's Principles for Instruction. So coming along to the reference panel and hearing a lot of these things back to us and hearing that Max were heading in that same direction of an evidence-based approach first and foremost was really reassuring, knowing that I could go back to my school and say with confidence that as a sector, we're heading in a really great direction, one that I think my colleagues will be really rapt to hear about. What impressed me the most, though, about the vision statement and some of the drafts that we were able to read beforehand was reading and knowing that it was that evidence-based approach first and foremost before anything else. I guess from my perspective, it came across that was its sole purpose. And that really connected to me, and I feel like the discussions that we had for some of the reference group team members, we felt the same way as well. So how does it connect with us at our school at Colby Catholic College? I might jump on a point that you made, Julie, before about the experience of students coming and going and having a similar experience. For our context, we've had a lot of staff changes, as many of you would, and I feel the same goes for staff too. Having the confidence knowing at one point in the future that we'll have great colleagues coming from all over the sector, all over Max, and knowing that they'll be trained in similar practices and speaking a similar language, I think that'll make our work a lot easier. And also that experience of moving within Max schools, a better experience for our colleagues and greater opportunities for them to grow and develop as well. For us at Colby, we were hoping to take a direction towards a more explicit instruction approach. So for us, tick. It was in line with where we were hoping to go anyway, so that was fantastic. We'd already done some work in that space prior to me starting, particularly pre-COVID, asking staff to think about strategies like I do, we do, you do, a focus on clear learning intentions and success criteria, which are all great. However, what we didn't have was something that really brought all of this together and really highlighted the connections and the interrelationships between some of these really important strategies. So reading the vision statement, I think we started to see some of that, and being able to take that back to our schools, I think will be a really great thing for us to do. As Julie mentioned too, from the northern suburbs as well, our context is that we have a high proportion of EAL and early language learners at our school, so we've got our work cut out for us to try and help these students make up for some of the gaps in their literacy learning. So, big task. So again, the multi-tiered systems of support that's referenced within the document, it's a really great thing to have in there. Some of the information in the reading vision for writing and the vision for reading instruction for us at our school will serve as really great touchstones for us to review what we're doing. Is it reflective of best practice? Are there some things that we can change and adapt? And knowing that the support that will come from the sector will be reflective of this too, I think will be really great for us. Yeah, that's about it really. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Adam. I think you made so many incredibly important points, but particularly about the shared and unifying set of classroom practices, because as we know from the research, it's the variance or difference between classroom practice and schools that actually has quite a significant negative impact on students. So thank you so much. Thank you.
So our final question is for Sarah. And Sarah, I want you to talk about what you see in this vision statement to actually contribute to the strengthening of the whole system of our Catholic schools in Melbourne.
It's an easy question. So the system, I really feel like this vision will provide a consistent approach to best instructional practice across all Max schools, primary and secondary. Having worked across both settings, I believe that this model will assist in demystifying some aspects of each educational environment. Many times I've heard teachers in the upper primary and lower secondary school feel quite in the dark about what goes on in the other's classroom. This vision is good for our system as it does not distinguish between good teaching in the junior, middle or senior years. It's just about good teaching. I hope this vision brings more clarity for teachers across primary and secondary settings and helps students to transition in Year 6 from one Max school to another to continue their education journey. Imagine being in your first mathematics class in Year 7. If it was me, I was very nervous. And for this child, the direct instruction, the slides, the materials are a mirror image of what they were already familiar with in primary school. What a relief for that child. At Emmaus College, we're embarking on a transformative journey to become an education hub, a K-12 learning environment. It's very exciting for us. But I feel that this vision will assist us in this transition as we seek to streamline the educational experience and provide high-quality classroom encounters for all the students at Emmaus. Max is making a commitment to the creation of quality curriculum-aligned resources that, as Chloe spoke about, will free up teacher planning time to focus on their pedagogy and practice. This is evident through the system enablers in the document that prioritise teacher support, resources, time, and the right school environment. This commitment to the creation of high-quality curriculum resources made by us, for us, we'll see a shift in teachers feeling unsure of where to go first. And instead of possibly searching and sneaking around the Department of Education website, we have something that is specifically for Max schools, a vision that aligns with our desire for evidence-based practices and the Catholic principles for education, and we should be really proud of that. The vision for instruction really feels like a collective approach to improving student outcomes, in the sense that schools will be supported by Max and that Max have made a commitment to the system implementation enablers that all aim to increase partnerships with schools and strengthen our system. The 5 system implementation enablers are a sign that Max is here with us on the journey to the Max 2030 vision. And by monitoring implementation, strengthening regional networks, providing coaching for leaderships in the areas of teaching and learning, providing high quality professional learning outcomes, opportunities for all, and high quality curriculum resources, this will further support schools to reach the implementation stage of embedding this vision into their setting. It is the individual differences across all Max schools that make us so special and unique, the character, the charism of each school that creates its identity and community. But when it comes to pedagogy and practice, cohesion across teaching and learning programs in our system is what this vision will provide. With the right support and through effective implementation, we will see our students and teachers benefit from this vision and each Max child truly flourish in their Max school.
Thank you, Sarah. And I think Sarah does have a unique contribution to make here, having experienced both primary and secondary, because we often see that used as an excuse. They're very different. Good teaching is good teaching, and every single one of our students is entitled to a good teaching practice when they're at school. So thank you so much. I think we've heard from all of our speakers this evening how important it is to build that equity across our whole system and to provide a coherent approach so that no matter what school you're at, whether it's primary or secondary or it's in the north or the west, every student there is getting a consistent, quality, effective teaching based on really strong support from us, right? So we've got a journey ahead of us, but you can see why we love working with our teachers and principals so much through this process. So thank you very much to your contribution to tonight. Thank you.
So last year we were extremely fortunate to host Professor Dylan Willem of the University College London Institute of Education for Mac schools, teachers and leaders. And it is with great excitement that we have continued our partnership this year, and as you heard him referenced so many times in the panel, you'd understand why. As many of you would know, Professor Dylan Willem is a dedicated advocate for the enhancement of teaching practices, formative assessment, and over the last decade has put the spotlight on the significance of cognitive load theory in education. Professor Willem has generously written the preface for our Vision for Instruction and shares his endorsement of our vision with us here this evening. Unfortunately, due to his teaching commitments in London, he was unable to join us. And as such, he's provided us with a short video message. In his preface, Professor Willem calls out the extraordinary benefits of education and the need for a greater focus on pedagogical practice that work for all students. But let me not speak for him. Thank you.
Hello, Dylan Willem here, and I'm here to tell you why I think the MACS Vision for Instruction is such an important document. Over the last 50 years, we've made enormous improvements in making education more inclusive. We've made sure that girls can be successful at mathematics just the same way that boys are. We've looked to ensure that students who have English as a second or a third language are just as successful. We've worked to make sure that students from less advantaged homes do as well as students from more privileged backgrounds. But there's one respect in which we haven't made that much progress, and that is in terms of pedagogy. When I started teaching in the 1970s, I taught mathematics in particular using a problem-solving approach because it seemed to me to be interesting and engaging, and it was also the way that I like to learn. And it took me a long time to realize that actually that was part of the problem, because that approach worked for students like me who thought like I did, students with lots of working memory, but it was less successful for other students. And over the years, we've come to realize that some teaching can be effective for some students, but the best teaching is effective for all students. Robert Pianta and his colleagues at the University of Virginia have shown that about 25% of students just get reading, no matter how bad their reading teaching is. John Sweller has shown that problem-solving approaches can be very effective for students with relatively high achievement, but for lower achieving students, a step-by-step explicit approach is essential. So that's why I think it's so important that the MACS Vision for Instruction is based on this idea of explicit instruction. If we want students to be successful, we teach them the things we need them to learn. And so the starting point here is being absolutely explicit about what we want to learn, and then, of course, finding out if they've learned it or not through regular formative assessment. The fact is that good teaching starts from where the students are, not where we'd like them to be, and the only way to find out where they are is to assess. Assessment is the bridge between teaching and learning. It is only by assessing that we'll figure out whether what we've just done as teachers has been effective. But then, we also need to make sure that students don't fail. I think that's why multi-tier systems of support are really important. But I think the really important thing about multi-tier systems of support is to make tier 1 as effective as possible. Too often, we actually don't pay much attention to tier 1 and hope that we'll catch the students in tier 2 or tier 3. And what I'm saying is that's a bit like having, rather than a fence at the top of a cliff, an ambulance at the bottom. So that's why I'm so happy to endorse the MACS Vision for Instruction. It's the most coherent vision of how we can ensure educational success for the largest number of our students. And I hope it'll help guide you in your practice over the coming years.
Was delighted to spend time with the professor late last year, and a snapshot of that rich conversation was elongated over half an hour or so, and I learned a huge amount. I'm delighted that we are joined by our Deputy Premier and Minister for Education, the Honourable Ben Carroll, who, much like Jess Wilson, has made hot step over from the steps of Parliament after, I'm sure, a very busy day. We're very grateful indeed that you can be with us, Deputy Premier, and I'm delighted to welcome you on stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edward. It really is my pleasure to be here. Can I begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Can I thank you, Dr. Edward Simons, Executive Director of Max, Board Member Jared Del Bosco, as well as the other board members that are here, to all the Max supporters, the community, to Jess Wilson, the Shadow Minister for Education. Thank you for being here, Jess. It really is a privilege to be here tonight, and I've got to say it was really nice to be here and just come sort of through that panel discussion of the teacher leaders that spoke, Julie, Chloe, Adam, Sarah, because they really did, I think, tell the story of my own experience having gone through the Catholic education system. And I was very fortunate, as was two of my siblings, to go through St Christopher's Primary in Airport West and then St Bernard's College in Essendon. And many of you will be aware that St Bernard's College is an Edmund Rice school. And one of the things that I've always been most proud about my Catholic education has been those teachings of social justice, and always remembering, you know, when you arrive at the class, when you leave the school gates at the end of the day, I think what Catholic education does provide is that real sense of community. And I know from being at St Bernard's College, it probably instilled in me as a young person, and Jess may be similar, you know, to go on and help others, that you're very fortunate to be going to such a wonderful school, but even more fortunate if you can put that education to practice. And it feels like yesterday, and it was 30 years ago, you know, when I, you know, through St Bernard's, spent a night at the St De Paul Boys Home, you know, it's no longer there now, but in South Melbourne, again learning how privileged I was, when I spent a night out with the Soup Fan, when I spent a night at Osnam House. These were the wonderful things that St Bernard's really instilled in me, and I know my younger brother. And I know, you know, now representing the area and representing St Bernard's, I do say to my political opponents, don't ever come after me unless you've gone to St Bernard's or you've gone to Ave Maria, because I'm sure it adds about 1 or 2% to my margin, Jess. If only I played for Essendon Footy Club, then I'd be a super safe Labor seat. But that's, you know, you can't go back and change history. But I'm very fortunate. And look, one of the great thrills I had recently was actually going back to St Bernard's, and we opened up, and we you know, the Victorian government invested $1 million into it, but we opened up the new Margaret Tracy Centre. And many of you will be aware of who, you know, Mrs Tracy was. She was Edmund Rice's mother. And she basically instilled in him, as a young boy back in Ireland, those, you know, the importance of second chances, the importance of looking after your neighbour, the importance of a welcoming home, you know, how a good cup of coffee can go so far. So, and then to go back and see that an all-boys school like St Bernard's is now naming many of its new buildings and redevelopments in honour of the women that helped many of the, you know, leaders in the Catholic education system, many of them men, but acknowledging the role of their mothers, I think is a great credit to Max. It's a great credit to the leadership in Catholic education that we have here in Victoria, and it makes me very proud as, you know, a former student of St Bernard's College to see that happening. I want to also just acknowledge, though, the great work that has gone into what really is an important document, and to all the people that have been part of this. I, during Parliament, and Jess may have been the same, you know, this week got to have a good read of this, Edward, and it was, you know, very much struck a strong note with me too, and how much I've still got to learn too. You might be the Minister for Education, but when it comes to, as the scholar from the UK said, when it comes to the importance of assessment You know, good teaching begins at that level of where the student is at and assessing. We're always on that path to learning more. And I'm feeling like I'm between dinner or drinks, so I'm not going to be up here for too much longer. But I just want to say, Edward, the science of learning, that we are all part of that global citizenship, and the work that's gone into that evidence base is really important. I think it might have been Chloe, but I've taken note about Max having their own document and not relying on the Department of Education website. That has got right through to the Minister, rest assured. But can I say, congratulations. You only have to look at the references in that document to see the level of detail that's gone into it and the thought that has gone into it as well. It is going to serve Max and all the schools as part of Max so well into the future. And you are to be congratulated on putting evidence-based practice to a really good cause, which we know is investing in education. I will be biased. I know Jess will be biased. She'll say she's got the best shadow portfolio. I'll say I've got the best portfolio because it makes the most important difference. Our economy, our teachers, nothing works and nothing changes the dial more in society than investing in education and investing in our teachers and investing in our young people. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I look forward to meeting with you many more today. And I think Frank Fitzgerald from St Bernard's College might be in the audience somewhere. Look forward to catching up with you too, Frank, and thank you for all the work that you did at my old school as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you to the Deputy Premier, the Honourable Ben Carroll. We thank you for coming tonight. We've got the St Joseph's Jazz Band to the side. If you need them to end any speeches in Parliament at any time, let us know and we can bring them out for you. So, also at the start, we did do a welcome without Jess here. So Jess, as the Shadow Minister, we'd like to welcome you tonight and thank you for joining us. So welcome to Jess, thank you. That concludes our formalities for tonight. So would you please join with me in thanking all our speakers who joined us tonight. So thank you. In a few moments, we'll have the St Joseph's College Jazz Band join us again. That's not to end the night or any speeches, but that's to continue the function. We want to thank you to our Flourishing Learners team and the Max Publication and Events team. Thank you to everyone who has contributed to the success of this launch and to everyone who worked behind the scenes. As we wrap up our formal proceedings, I'd like to ask you to take a moment to provide your feedback. Please scan the QR code on the screen if you would like to provide feedback now. Otherwise, a link will be sent to you or emailed to you after the event. So on behalf of Dr. Edward Simons and everyone at Max, we want to thank you for coming to the launch tonight here at the Park Hyatt. We hope you have a great evening and enjoy the rest of Term 1 in your schools. Thank you, everyone.